Hey everybody, welcome back to the Build Show. Steve Basic Architect here. We're still out at the Hilltop Aero project here, and today we're going to talk about the soffit. Now, if you remember in the past videos, we have our board formed concrete piers. We have about 70% of the house sits on top of these piers. And so up above me here, we have a 14-inch floor truss that's fully insulated. Below that floor truss, we have a zip R9 panel, which is a laminated polyisocyanurate to the zip sheathing product. And that provides that R9 continuous across this plane, in addition to that 14-inch floor truss that has blown cellulose in it. That's at 40, roughly about R60-ish, right? So we have roughly, let's just call it R70 for, we'll round up and make it sound good, but we basically have an R70 floor system here that has that R9 continuous. But more importantly, a lot of you have been asking, well, how are you going to finish that? How are you going to close that off? So our solution here, and we could have done a lot of things. We could have done a wooden product. We could have done a boral soffit product. But remember, every decision that we make in building is tied to the dollar bill, right? So how can we cover a large expanse of this, make it highly durable, make it look good, but then also have it benefit the budget as much as possible? Now, one of the beauties of what we're seeing under here is I'm showing it to you today, but we're probably going to be some of the last people to ever see it, because the grass is just going to grow wild around here, and the whole intent was to show the house as almost being dropped on the property here and letting just nature kind of consume it around its feet. So no one's coming down under here looking at the details, looking at how we did this. You know, the building science nerdy group, they might want to come down and check it out. But aside from that, we made this decision based on nice aesthetics, easy installation, and above all, cost. So you can see here, we have, I don't know, it's about a 3.5-inch steel channel product. It comes in, I believe it's like a 12 or a 16-inch wide panel, and it gets nailed up. It's a metal soffit material. You can actually get them in vented systems, but we didn't need the vent here because there's nothing to really vent. But it's highly durable. You can see it gets put in, I don't know, 10, 12-foot lengths. So it goes up real easy. It's metal. It's already pre-finished, so we don't have to come here and finish it. You know, it's a win-win-win all around. So anyways, that's how we finished it off. The soffit, or underbelly here, as I was calling it, it's pretty much done. Let's jump back to the studio. We'll pull up that section and we'll just kind of give you that last look of what we did here in that floor assembly. So I'll see you back at the studio. We'll grab Big Red. All right, everybody. Hopefully you enjoyed that little stint out there at the job site. It's always nice to see these assemblies kind of in their series of transitions where we had the frame and then the closure and then kind of the finish work here that we illustrated in this in that video and visit to the site. So I have a couple details here and sections, so let's dive in. We'll reiterate that area of the building. We'll talk a little bit more about it, and then we'll put a close on that assembly. So let's grab our good buddy Big Red and have at it. All right, so before we look at that detail, I just wanted to get you familiar again with the Hilltop Aero House if you're not as familiar with it as some of us. So here's those concrete, board formed concrete piers that we saw there that carry it. When we were filming, we were basically standing down here looking up at the floor. So this is that belly of the monster, I call it, or the underside where we saw that metal soffit material. And that's that floor frame that is basically hanging out over air, right? So the same principles apply there. They're no different than what's happening up here on the wall. Here you have inside and outside. Here you have inside and outside with some type of framed barrier assembly. So let's talk about that detail. What we're going to do is we're just going to look at a detail cut through here, looking through that floor assembly over at one of the brick piers. So here we have it. You can see there's that board formed concrete pier. Here are our double mud sill. In this case, they're treated 2x8s. You can see those are heavily anchored into that brick pier. The band joist of that floor assembly is actually two 14-inch LVLs, because that's actually the beamwork that's carrying the floor in between the concrete piers, and where we don't have the mud sill and direct bearing, then we'll have joist hangers out there carrying that floor system. But what I wanted to show was just kind of reiterate some of the things that we already did talk about, but then finish it off with what we saw at the job site. So that's our floor truss, basically. You can see the web members in there. And we had those, top cord, bottom cord. These are 14 inches deep, which also means that we get 14 inches of blown-in insulation. So we're probably somewhere in the R56-ish range there. Then we have an R9 panel here. It's a zip panel. And the zip panel is, remember, that's our weather-resistive barrier and 1.5 inches of polyiso foam. And that's continuous. So we have the blown-in insulation here that's continuous, but we do have some conductive heat loss if we put the sheathing directly applied to the floor truss, in that the floor truss touches our floor sheathing and then it would touch our exterior sheathing. And so we would have some thermal transfer through the framing member. But by putting that R9 on there, we get what's called a thermal break, right? There, so we get that break there. Now, what's interesting is if I take this detail and I turn it, it's really no difference than the wall, right? So you have some type of framing assembly, and then you have that continuous sheathing on the outside of the wall. So, you know, and you can see that here. Here we use the T-stud. So we get a thermal break in that, but we also ran that R9 down the outside of the wall here. And then it comes around and goes under here. So basically what we've done is we have our framed assembly here, wall truss is in the T-stud, and then here floor truss. And we basically wrap that in a 1.5 inch R9 blanket. All right. And the good thing about that is that it maintains one of my favorite words, right? Continuity, right? And it doesn't matter whether you're chasing water management, whether you're chasing air, or in this case, whether you're chasing thermal. Continuity is the key, right? It always is. Continuity, continuity, continuity. I can't say it enough. But we can't leave that sheathing just sitting out there like that, right? We need to cover that with something. And so what we do with that R9 sheathing is we put some furring strips on there, and then we cover it with a metal sheathing underneath that. And that's what you saw out there, right? That metal soffit work. It is basically a 3.5 inch channel here that goes like that. And then it ties into itself, so it's blind fastened in there. But then that gives you that channel look, right, that we saw out there. Anyways, that's that detail. Hopefully you appreciate everything we did out there. I think it's a really great blend of where building science meets aesthetics. So anyways, that's it for the floor assembly. Alrighty, so hopefully you enjoyed that. If this is the first time you're seeing a video on the belly of that the Hilltop Arrow House, go check out some of those previous videos where we talk about the framing and all of that good stuff happening under there, and you'll be able to understand it a little clearer there as you see the different construction sequences that we did there in a series of videos. Anyways, if you're looking for more from me, give me a follow on Instagram, Steve Basic Architect. You can also find my daughter who works with me. She's on Instagram at Alexandra Basic. You can find me on the Unbuild It podcast, where I team up with fellow contributor Jake Bruton and good friend Peter Yost, and we talk about building science and the building industry and all kinds of good stuff. So we lay it out in a nice little format there, easy to understand, and we break down some pretty complex stuff. So go check that out. That's on all the podcast outlets as well as YouTube. You can go there and find us on YouTube. So, and then lastly, the science says, go watch those videos 7 times before you grasp them. So we have a little over a year's worth of videos. So, and when you're done watching mine 7 times, go catch up on Matt, Brent, Jake, and Wade. These guys are putting out some fabulous stuff. So anyways, until next time, long live our buildings.